Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I am so excited for this spa day. Candles lit, music on, hot tub warm and ready. And then my chronic hives come back. Again, in the middle of my spa day. What a wet blanket. Looks like another spell of itchy red skin. If you have chronic spontaneous urticaria or CSU, there is a different treatment option. Hives during my next spa day? Not if I can help it. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, it has just been announced a Republican wins Tennessee special election. And Matt Van Epps handily wins the race. If you listen to the mainstream media, they say, boy, oh boy, it was close. Right now, it looks like it's at least 7 or 8 percentage points. A win is a win is a win. And that was an important win for the GOP. Had the Democrats won that, Afton Bain, who was the Democrat, was sort of being viewed as the AOC of Tennessee. And some of her policies were very similar to AOC and also Zoran Mandani. She was very much someone who talked about defunding the police. She also said she didn't like Nashville, even though she's representing Nashville in the local, and now she was trying to become the congressional. Also, in addition to that, she said she doesn't like Christians and she doesn't like country music. I'm not sure if there's anything she likes about Tennessee. But the good news is the GOP has won that seat, because had Matt Van Epps lost that seat, that would have not been a good sign for the midterms of 2026. And it would obviously tighten the House even more than it already is. It's 214, I believe, to 220 Republicans. And it's 218 is sort of the golden number that you got to get there. So they have now 2 past that golden number, but that's not a big margin, guys. And we've already seen a lot of gridlock that is taking place in the House. But can you imagine had it been even one less? So this is interesting times, but just a few minutes ago, literally, I think about half an hour ago, the Republican Matt Van Epps is going to win that special House race. That is the 7th Congressional District there in Tennessee. And he won again by like about 7-8 percentage points. So that was a decent win. A lot of people are saying, oh, we should have won more. It was a district that Donald Trump, yes, had won. But also it's been redistricted a little bit since then. So the lines have changed a little bit. But it is still a good, solid win. And it's an important one because, remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be leaving. So there's a lot of changes that are going to be happening. And no doubt 2026 is going to be a red hot year for politics, 100%. Zoran Mandani also making some interesting news tonight, saying that he has spoken again with President Trump, saying that he talked with him about ICE. He talked with him about housing costs. He also says that he called President Trump after their meeting in the Oval Office, and he expressed his condolences to the National Guard troops who were shot at. He also says he talked about affordable housing. Now, he was asked, did you talk about ICE? You know, at what point was this sort of brought up? And he said, well, we did, but this was before the ICE raid in New York City, where, remember, there were protesters that were blocking in ICE at their garages. So, I mean, what was he going to say? Keep on going, protesters? Because those protesters were his friends. It would have been interesting to see what would Donald Trump have said to him in response. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show. And here is Zoran Mandani talking about deporting criminal aliens, saying, you know what? He doesn't think that's a good thing to do. So I guess him and Trump, they won't really see eye to eye on that one.
I think that they were on a mission that was good and just. I hear a lot of these people complaining and whining about the fact that they shouldn't be reducing crime in a city. And it's so wrong. I mean, you have a capital city. That's part of every state's fabric that we look and we want to have a crime-free city if we can. And we care about our states. We also care about the capital city. And these people were doing unbelievable work, and they were, by all accounts, really succeeding in reducing crime. And how could anyone take issue with that if you can reduce the number of murders and rapes and assaults and other issues simply because of their presence? That's incredible, and we should be celebrating them, their bravery, and the work that they're doing instead of some of these people that are questioning the mission and somehow putting these people in a position of fault. They're not.
Well, that's not Zoran Mandani, but that sure sounds like something that Zoran Mandani would say. And here is mayoral candidate Zoran Mandani. This is the way I kind of always remember Mandani screaming at Tom Homan, which is why him and Trump, they really will not see eye to eye on ICE. Remember when Tom Homan was visiting up in Albany, and this is what Zoran Mandani, this is how he reacted to the border czar.
How many more New Yorkers not charged? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? How many more New Yorkers will you target?
Screaming at Tom Homan at the top of his lungs, shouting, screaming. I mean, you can't make it up. This is clearly a very different person than Donald Trump. And Donald Trump could not be further apart when it comes to the issue of ICE and deportations. Today, also, a lot of talk during that cabinet meeting. And by the way, it was their 9th cabinet meeting that Donald Trump had. In 2024, Joe Biden had 1 cabinet meeting. And I don't even think he led it. I think Dr. Jill Biden led it. Remember? Because Joe was like in a mental coma. So most of it was essentially Jill Biden talking and Joe just kind of sitting there. Well, clearly that wasn't the case with Donald Trump. If you watch the cabinet meeting today, it was like more than 2 hours. It was going on and on and on. He was fluid. He was clear. He was full of energy, able to react to like every different topic that his different cabinet members were reacting to on a wide variety of topics. You could tell they're all on it. They're all working hard. And the president is the Energizer Bunny. And here he is talking about the status of illegal aliens coming into the United States. And he said he is very proud of his record.
For 6 months in a row, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted into the United States. You believe that? 0. We had millions of people coming in a year, millions. Now we have 0 for 6 months, and these are given by radical left people that do the numbers. I mean, they're not doing them any favor. They're being we don't have our net numbers are unbelievable, but we had 0 people in the last 6 months. Illegal border crossings along the U.S.-Mexico border have plummeted to the lowest level ever recorded. And nobody talks about that anymore. You know, it's crazy. They don't talk about it. You think they'd say, well, Trump's done a great job in the border.
Yeah, and he has done a good job in the border. As we always said, he didn't need an act of Congress. You just needed a new president. And here is President Trump pulling no punches on what he thinks should happen to those who wish to do America harm. Take a listen.
And what Biden did to this country by allowing all these people, and I call them animals in many cases, I think they're animals, to come into our country and destroy our country and let all those drugs pour in, let people just walk across the border like it was nothing. You look at them, a lot of them, you know, you say, oh, let's not discriminate. I'm not talking about color. I'm just talking about, you look into the eyes of some of these people, we're smart, and you see a killer. Come on in, just come on in. 11,888 murderers. Many of them committed more than one murder. He allowed them into our country, totally unvetted, totally unchecked. But he also allowed drugs to come in at record numbers, and hundreds of thousands of people a year died. And we're taking those son of a bitches out.
He is taking them out. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. As President Trump is saying, we're taking the animals out. Well, guess what? The Democrats are saying, oh, those wonderful, lovely people, those narco terrorists on those boats. It's so mean to take them out. Are we truly living in an alternate universe? Because today, during the cabinet meeting, all the reporters were basically asking was Pete Hegseth and President Donald Trump about the details of that strike that took place on that narco boat on September 2nd. And we're going to get into that in a little bit because Pete Hegseth went through what he says he knew. He also went through what he says the admiral did in that case, and new details tonight that the admiral may be speaking to members of Congress on Thursday. So that's going to be an interesting one. But Pete Hegseth has no compassion for the press, asking the question, saying, you know, you weren't asking these kind of questions of Joe Biden. You weren't asking these questions of Barack Obama when he was, you know, using his drone strikes to take out, remember, a whole wedding at one point? I would say maybe that's over the top, but a narco boat, oh, that's a mean thing to do. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Dom in Minnesota. And Dom, by the way, I am praying for you guys. You have that big scandal there with the Somalis, where what is it, like $1 billion that suddenly a lot of it ended up potentially with terror groups in Somalia. And Tim Waltz, I guess, got complaints about it, but he ignored it. And now I saw that the attorney general there also was caught on tape. And somehow the next thing you know, money goes to him. I mean, there's something fishy in the water there, Dom.
You know, Rita, I'm glad that now Tampon Tim is not going to have any more money to buy more tampons for bathrooms in Minnesota. By
the way, that is the silver lining here. Good for you, yeah, Dom. You're right. That's the only silver. This is incredible. By the way, and before we get to the other stuff, because you are there in Minnesota, that is amazing. This is supposedly one of the biggest sort of federal ripoff in American history is the allegation. And there are reports that these whistleblowers were sounding the alarm to Tim Waltz and saying, look, this is going on. This money is not going to women and children in need. This money is actually going back to Somalia, some of it even going to Democratic politicians for campaign donations, a whole bunch of stuff. And not only is the action obviously horrible, but then that there's a cover up that apparently he didn't want to respond and was even kind of going after, if you will, the whistleblowers because he didn't want to upset his constituents. The Somalis are such a big constituency there in Minnesota. Do you buy this? I mean, that to me is disgraceful. And if this turns out to be true, he should step down and he should maybe be behind bars too, Dom.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, this was not big news for people in Minnesota. We've been hearing about this for quite a few years, and from Democrats, not just Republicans, just Democrats who were pissed off at what he was doing, and then they were bringing it to his attention. He says, you know, shut up because we can't win some districts without the Somali support. And that's what was the main problem. And most of the whistleblowers are Democrats. And that's the main thing that the nation is now trying to understand. Minnesotans knew about it through the local newspapers and stuff. We were kind of in touch with it for quite some time, almost like 4, 5, 6 years. So only now the nation is becoming aware of it.
Wow. Well, and the fact that with these allegations, he was still picked as the running mate for Kamala Harris. And apparently the allegation is also that she was told and the DNC was told that there's some stuff in Tim's background and Tampon Tim's background, and they still picked him. I mean, to me, how could you pick somebody like that? I mean, were they that desperate for certain votes?
Well, actually, it's very simple. From where I'm standing, this guy, Tampon Tim, is slicker than Slick Willie. That's why she picked him.
Well, I'll give you that, because she did have a history with Slick Willie, too. That's for sure, Dom. Dom, thank you so much. We love hearing from you always and getting the inside track there from Minnesota. 1-800-848-9222. And everybody, we will continue your calls right after the break here on The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Leadership Thread with Dr. Peggy Polonis.
I'm Dr. Peggy Polonis. Join me on each episode where I unravel the story that shaped leaders, tracing the thread that led them where they are today. Because leadership isn't born in adulthood. Moving in the same direction and doing it united, then the movement forward is always so much more powerful.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
President Trump says he is absolutely going to be doing much more vetting of those who are in this country, saying if you don't love this country, get out of here. And he made that crystal clear today. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Tony in Clifton on line 4. Tony, your thoughts?
Oh, my goodness. I think for the cabinet meetings, I love them all, Rita. But my favorite piece today, my favorite topic in the cabinet meeting was Secretary Kristi Noem, because she did the follow-up on the whole Governor Waltz state issues with the Somalians. And when she spoke, she said to President Trump, she said, you told me to look into Minnesota and their fraud on visas and their programs, and 50% of them are fraudulent. And Governor Tim Waltz, I don't know if you want to play it, is a wacko. And he brought people in there illegally that never should have been in this country.
By the way, Tony, that number, the 50%, when I heard that, my jaw dropped. I mean, if that's true, that 50% in Minnesota are there, essentially the visas are illegal. I mean, that's an enormous number. I mean, if somebody had said even 5%, my jaw would drop. 50%, that's stunning. And I did hear that, too, and I was shocked.
Right. And what she said, though, that really impressed me, because I have been looking for some legislation on how to vet out all the communists that are running the country, starting with people like Governor Waltz. And Kristi Noem, I don't know if you heard her say it, but what she said was, she said from next year, any people who are in this country in leadership positions, and she was speaking right after the piece about Waltz, she said any of them will have to love this country, because right now she's seeing Tim Waltz as someone who doesn't love this country. And that's why there's chaos, because he thinks we're in Somalia, and we're not. This is the United States of America, Rita.
And you know the thing is, too, Tony, you brought up some powerful points, because Tim Waltz, based on what at least some of the reporting out there, that he turned a blind eye, according to the whistleblowers. If he turned a blind eye because he was so desperate to have the Somali constituents that he was willing to turn a blind eye to fraud?
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Jay Kelly, the new film from Academy Award nominee Noah Baumbach. George Clooney stars as an actor confronting his past and present on a journey of self-discovery, alongside Adam Sandler as his devoted manager. Critics are calling it a declaration of love to the chaotic art of filmmaking, with the Wall Street Journal praising it as a transcendent comedy drama. Watch Jay Kelly December 5th, only on Netflix.
Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
It's 7v7 soccer. Smaller the pitch, faster the action. The world's elite soccer clubs compete for their share of a massive $5 million prize. Catch World Sevens on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max December 5th through the 7th.
REI Co-op presents a perfect outdoor moment with the perfect gift. Picture this. You're ripping with your favorite person. Bluebird skies, blower powder, and frankly, you're skiing like legends.
So sick. Another lap?
Thanks to REI's curation, from lid to sticks, you nailed the gift.
No way. How'd you know?
Does it get more perfect than that? Give without guessing. Shop in store or visit rei.com.
Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Jaffrey, New Hampshire, where two hikers from Massachusetts were rescued below a summit in New Hampshire. They were successfully rescued by conservation officers after they got lost in the state park. Now, conservation officers were alerted just after 4 o'clock one day that two hikers called 911 asking for help. They said that the hiker calls provided GPS coordinates to the officers that placed the two hikers off the trail and about 1,000 feet below the summit, a very dangerous area. So a conservation officer sent a link to a mapping software that allowed him to guide the hikers back to the trail using mapping software sent to him via a link. The hikers were using the light of their cell phones. That's all they had. However, they were not dressed for the snow-covered terrain and freezing temperatures impacting the vast areas of the summit. And due to the recent snowfall that impacted the areas, the hikers' progress had been slowed down substantially. So they had lost the trail due to the snowfall. They were trying to figure out their way. Luckily, with that guiding, they were able to get back to the trail, and then they were able to be reached by officers who found them about 2 hours later, and they provided them with critical support gear, headlamps, hand warmers, mittens, everything they needed. And then they were brought back to headquarters soon after that and expected to make a full recovery. Thank goodness for their quick thinking and also the great work of law enforcement and great technology. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Here is also, we played earlier with Mandani. Here's another clip. This is Mandani himself talking. And this just goes to show, boy, I think him and President Trump are certainly going to be at odds, because Mandani just revealed tonight that he had a second discussion with President Trump. And he said it was after the ICE were blocked in, the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement were blocked in at that garage. So he said that happened after the discussion. In other words, they spoke and then that happened, because he said, I certainly would have brought that up to President Trump. As if President Trump would have said, stand down, ICE. You've got to be kidding me. But Mandani said, I was obviously very disappointed with what happened with ICE. A lot of his buddies were the ones that were out there protesting and blocking ICE, and also at the press conference the next day cheering the fact that they were able to stop essentially an ICE raid. This is really dangerous territory, and it just shows what Mandani is thinking. And here is Zoran Mandani talking about what he thinks about apprehending and deporting illegal criminal aliens. Take a listen.
When I met with the president, I made very clear that these kinds of raids are cruel and inhumane, that they are raids that do nothing to serve the interests of public safety, and that my responsibility is to be the mayor to each and every person that calls this city their home. And that includes millions of immigrants, of which I am one.
So what is ahead when Zoran Mandani becomes the mayor-elect? By the way, the other thing he said tonight was he will not allow the NYPD. He said 100% the NYPD is not assisting ICE. And he said those raids by ICE, he described them as cruel and inhumane. He is not wavering on his views. And he said that he is 100% steadfast on that. And for sure, next time he talks to President Trump, he's going to bring it up. And I'm sure President Trump is going to tell him where to stick it. Because clearly President Trump is on a mission to clear up and clean out America's streets. By the way, there was a new report last night that 7,000 cases of some very serious things. These were ones who were let out early or for good behavior or just because of soft on crime judges that were not informed to ICE that they were getting out, and some pretty serious criminals, some with attempted murder, rape, robbery, more than 7,000 of them, and just this year alone. So, yes, they claim they're a sanctuary city, which is why they're saying we're not going to cooperate with ICE. But it's going to get a lot worse, I think, under Zoran Mandani. So buckle up, everybody, because it is going to get very, very bumpy. And here's another story. This is so disheartening. This just came out that a Brooklyn middle school principal just denied a parent's request to have a Holocaust survivor speak to students about anti-Semitism, saying the victim's pro-Israel views are, quote, not appropriate for a public school. So this principal at MS 447, Ann Roosh is her name, wrote to the parent claiming that Nazi labor camp survivor Sammy Stegman, and I know Sammy is a true American hero, that his opinion, she said, would not be right for the Borum Hill School. How could that not be right? A Holocaust survivor, a true hero among us, is not appropriate for a New York middle school? Is this what's ahead for New York's Mandani? And here's what the principal said further. In looking at Sammy Stegman's material, I also don't think that Sammy's presentation is right for our public school settings, given his messages around Israel and Palestine. Sammy is an enormous supporter of the Jewish population, a true American hero, a true Israeli hero. And what, he's not appropriate for young people? What, the only thing that's appropriate are what, pro-Hamas speakers? Is that what's ahead? That, to me, is so incredible. What, a Holocaust survivor is not an appropriate speaker. That is disgraceful. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show. Let's go to Larry on line 4. Larry, your thoughts tonight.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that in Mandani, I'm pronouncing it like you do already, Mandani's statement about immigrants, he said, of which I am one, he did not distinguish between legal and illegal immigrants. To him, everybody is legal. If you just walk across the border and be unvetted, you're considered an immigrant. I mean, this guy should not be dealt with because he clearly has no respect for the law.
You bring up a great point because you're right. He didn't distinguish between the two. He also really seems a bit full of himself and a bit arrogant, Larry. Next time I talk to President Trump, I'm going to tell him. As if President Trump is going to be like, are you kidding me? If you want to talk housing, we're okay. We'll talk affordable housing. If you want to do things that are good for New York, but if you're not going to turn over these horrible people and you're going to block ICE, Trump is not going to have any of that. Don't you think, Larry? So where is this, where is the quote, bromance headed, I guess, between Trump and Mandani?
I think it never should have gotten started to begin with. I think Trump should have really drawn a hard line with this guy and he treated him like with kid gloves, like he's his grandson or something. I mean, this guy is a clear danger. I just want to say something about the Starbucks. He joined that Starbucks protest for one reason, and I said a different reason yesterday, but the real reason is because he wants the minimum wage to be $30 an hour.
Right.
These people I see them working enthusiastically, not only in Starbucks, but in all places. They're making, I think, close to 20 an hour minimum wage. It was raised, and they're doing pretty well. But what Mandani wants to make it $30 an hour so he can break the businesses. That's what he wants to do. He wants to break businesses up so they can't afford to keep going, to keep the employees. And that's why he's on the Starbucks line.
That, it's an interesting point. You're right. The whole minimum wage thing. I just thought he was using it as a warm up because, listen, he was a part of all these pro-Palestinian protests, proudly was a member there. He was, blocking at one point, I think it was traffic on the Brooklyn Bridge, but he's definitely been a part of these protests. So I just thought maybe he's warming up because he's planning on doing a whole bunch of marching starting January 1st. But I think your point's a good one, Larry, that I think he wants to break up businesses because in his mind, ICE is bad, businesses are bad, white neighborhoods are bad. And that's why I also, scaringly, I brought up this example of this New York City principal who somehow was saying that Sammy Stegman, who is obviously pro-Israeli, Holocaust survivor, his views are not balanced, she's essentially saying. His views on Israel and Palestine. What she wants somebody who's only, pro-Hamas? I mean, and what will a Mandani do? Will a Mandani say, yeah, that's fine? Or pro-Hamas protesters, keep going. That's fine. That's First Amendment. I think we're headed to some really difficult terrain. And I think he really has a set of cojones because he seems like when he's talking about Trump, like, oh, I'm going to talk to Trump about this. And no way, we're not going to give in. We're not going to do that. So I agree with you that the friendship is very short-lived between the two. And I think what Trump was trying to do, Larry, I think Trump, like you said, he was, treating him sort of like somebody's like, the miscellaneous nephew at a party. But I think he thought, okay, I'll be nice to him, and the minute he gets out of line, I will put the hammer down. And I think that hammer is going to come down very early on in January. Larry, thank you very, very much. Let's go to Sandra in New Jersey. Go ahead, Sandra, your thoughts tonight.
Good evening, Rita. Anti-Semitism. I read that 25 anti-Semitic attacks happen every day, one every hour. Just the other day, there's a woman named Iman Masood. She's an esthetician, and she owns a skincare business in Staten Island called Pure with Nature. Two Jewish people a man and a woman came in to her company, and they needed a little help paying for the meter. So they asked her, and she was wearing the hijab, and she was dressed, as a Palestinian woman. And they just simply asked, can you just help me with the meter? And she said that the only way I will help you pay for your parking meter is if you say Free Palestine. And the couple refused, and she said, well, I refuse to help you. And she publicly boasted about humiliating them. It was all on TikTok. It was, and she got a lot of backlash for this. People are angry about this. They're outraged. And they say in France, it's outlawed to wear the hijab at work or in government settings. And I think this is just one example. And then I remember reading that you had acting mayor Randy Masco on your show the other day.
No, you know who he was? He was on with John Katz. He was on Katz Roundtable. Right. But I did hear a lot of the interview, and he really took it to, he was upset because he thought the NYPD should have moved the protesters further away during that protest, that vile protest that took place at the synagogue. And he was upset that they were blocking the doors. The protesters, you can do, we're a free speech country, but you cannot impede people from going into the church. And what was the most distressing is that Mandani took issue against the worshipers. Sandra, saying they shouldn't have been there. What? They shouldn't have been inside the temple. Where were they? Where should they have been, Mandani? I
know.
I mean, what a ridiculous comment, Sandra. That's why I'm worried. This guy is a true believer, Sandra.
Now you want to hear something, Rita? I was in the gym today, and I met a very lovely man. His name is Jay, an older man. And he saw me reading. I was rehearsing my speech for the next event, and he sees me on the treadmill talking, reading it. And he came over to me, and we started to talk. And I told him what I do. I do these beautiful events with special people. And he said to me, I ought to have Mandani come to the club. And I said, why? Do you like him? I was shocked. He's Jewish. I said, why? Do you like him? He goes, well, as a matter of fact, I do. I said, well, you could talk to this man. He wasn't crazy. I said, well, why? You're Jewish. He doesn't like the Jewish people. He goes, well, I don't know yet if that's true. We have to wait and see. Let's give the man a chance, because maybe I said, what about all the friends that he keeps? Doesn't that mean something?
What about the things he said in his own words not that long ago?
I know.
And what did he say? Sandra, this is really interesting. How old was this guy? And what, he just didn't really believe what he thinks, like some of it was like just slogans or not really from his own mouth?
He likes the energy that this young man has. He likes the passion that this young man has. He believes that he's not going to hurt the Jewish people. He believes, let's give him a chance. And if I'm wrong, I will be the first to say it, Sandra. But let's give this man a chance. And he believes that he doesn't hate the Jews. He believes that it's not true.
Well, I believe then the Brooklyn Bridge is for sale too, Sandra. And I also believe in the Tooth Fairy. That's an interesting, it's fascinating to hear that, because I had young people during the campaign, and you guys probably even heard this, Sandra. They'd call in once in a while and say, I've heard some people say this, but I don't really believe he's ever said defund the police. And then I would say, well, let me read you what he said. Oh, I didn't know that. Right. Like they sort of got wrapped up in a little bit like this guy, it sounds like, and the big smile and yeah, he's got a great smile. He's got a lot of energy. And has a big machine behind him. And if his views were great, it'd be a home run. But his views are so nutty and so dangerous, I believe, for New York City. And so far, I haven't seen anything that's proven me wrong. Everything I'm seeing so far, and I think the test is going to come really soon, because I think something will happen. There'll be some protest, whether he has anything to do with it or not. There'll be some protest, and it'll be kind of let's see what he does. The rubber will hit the road, and he'll have to, is he going to respond and protect all New Yorkers like he claimed? Or is he going to go after the worshipers in the synagogue like he did when that protest happened recently? Or say, keep on going, guys. NYPD, stand down. What's going to happen if there's a big protest and NYPD is told to stand down, not even show up? What are they? You can bet there'll be a lot of NYPD who may walk off the job. They'll say, that's it. We gave him a chance. That's it. This is our worst nightmare. This is not policing. This is putting people in danger. So I just think it's going to be a bumpy road. But I can't wait to hear when you go back and see him again. Let's see what he says. Maybe sometime in middle of January, end of January, or when that first sort of moment happens, whenever that is. And I think, sadly, I wish I was wrong, Sandra, but I think this guy's a true believer, and I think it's dangerous for New York. It's dangerous for America. And I also think he feels emboldened, and he's going to want to step up. And I think it's going to be a very bumpy ride for law enforcement in New York, whether it's federal or local. And also Jewish residents. I think it's really a scare. We're into a bumpy period. It's a very uncertain time. So let's see what he says there on the treadmill next time you see him. Sandra, thank you. Really interesting story. 1-800-848-9222. We'll continue after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go to your calls, guys. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Reggie in Texas on line 4. Reg, your thoughts tonight?
Well, the bar just keeps getting lower. I heard the story about the principal that won't allow that Holocaust survivor to speak to the kids. It's the same old story. They don't want the truth to come out. They're fearful of the other side. These young kids being educated on the truth and at the horrors that took place. President Eisenhower put it best when he was a general. He made sure to document it. As a matter of fact, I could read part of his quote here. He said he wanted to see this so that later on in life there wouldn't be any talk of propaganda, that this never happened. And unfortunately, we've reached a point now where we want our kids completely tone deaf to anything but what their side offers. That's not even the truth. And they want to hide the truth from these kids. These kids should know the truth. They should know the horrors of what's been done to Jewish people over the years. And the threat that now seems very real, Rita, seems very real.
Yeah, and you know, I agree with you. I mean, if you will not let a true hero, somebody who survived the Holocaust and, like you said, witnessed man's unbelievable evil towards man, and for them, there's, and they're getting up there in years too. They're not going to be that many left. We need to hear their stories so we never, ever forget their stories. And shame on this principal. I agree with you.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here? Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.